Nate Boyer is going to join us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Nate, as many of you may or may not remember, he is a very interesting guy. Got an unbelievable story. Green Beret, U.S. Army, late in his life, decided, you know what, football might be something I want to try. Seahawks, and then 2016, San Francisco 49ers, and really was by some a known guy, and others, I don't know that they have seeked out his story. So that's why it's great to have him on board with us, because I think information is power. Ignorance leads to fear. Fear leads to hate. And a lot of people are still very ignorant on a lot of the situations that are going on out there. And I think it's great to hear all sides of the story. And that's why we bring Nate Boyer on to the Sports Bash Boardwalk Honda Hotline here with us on 97.3. Nate, welcome aboard. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Doing really well, and we appreciate you jumping on board and giving us a couple minutes of your time. And obviously, with everything that's going on, you probably have been doing a lot of these things, and we really love to get information to our listeners, because there's always people who have their ways, they're stuck in their ways, and I don't think they seek out information. And I don't know that how many people understand the role that you have in what's going on in the world right now with the Colin Kaepernick thing, and people will think that I talk to people all the time. I don't like that guy. And I say, well, why? And they give you this ridiculous answer. And then I tell them about you, and they almost don't know that. And I wonder if you can just kind of share with our listeners your relationship, your friendship with Colin, and how kind of it sparked what we're now seeing pop in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a divisive topic. It's tough, but at the end of the day, I hadn't met Colin before he started sitting on the bench and protest back in 2016. I only met him after that. After I wrote an open letter, sort of with my background and experience and feelings towards everything, my emotions, how I feel when the flag is raised. A lot of the things, honestly, that Drew Brees said a couple weeks ago, I feel the same way, right? But I also said, but I don't I don't want to pretend to know what it's like to be you and know what you have experienced, or what you are protesting for, people that other people have experienced. And I'm a white man in America. I have a very different experience to that. I've also seen oppression, fought against it in the Darfur, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. So that's something that I can relate to, but it is different than what we're talking about here. And while I'm hurt that you're choosing not to stand when the anthem is played, I am acknowledging and understanding that you have a different feeling and emotion towards those symbols because of what you've experienced. So I basically wrote this letter. He called me and he wanted to meet, and we ended up having a conversation in the lobby of the team hotel before the final preseason game in 2016. And at the end of our conversation, and it was a very, not only a civil one, it was it was a good conversation. It was two guys that were we were laughing about stuff and just talking, two human beings having a conversation face to face, which doesn't happen very often anymore. And at the end of it, he asked me, do you think there's another way I can protest that's not going to offend people in the military? And I said, no, because no matter what you do, some people are going to be offended. And I don't speak for anybody but the military, or anybody but myself. I don't speak for the military. I don't speak for the veteran community. I don't speak for white people. I don't speak for anybody. But if you're looking for another way, another option, I think it'd be important to be alongside your teammates. That shows something, whether they agree with you or not. You're still going to go on the field and play a game with them shoulder to shoulder. And, you should respect them and they should respect you. And that's that. And it also, sitting kind of looks like you're sitting it out, or you're sort of making it about you. And I don't feel like that's, from our conversation, I don't feel like that's what you're about. So I said, if you're going to be alongside your teammates and you're committed to not standing until things change, I think the only other option is to take a knee. And I think that's a respectful gesture. It's showing, we take a knee to pray and propose to our wives, and when a player's on the field is hurt, everybody takes a knee out of respect. And when I visit Arlington, I take a knee at a fallen brother's grave to pay respect. So kneeling has not really ever been seen as a disrespectful gesture, in the history of mankind. So I think if you're going to do anything besides standing, I think that would be a good option. And he agreed, and he thought it was more powerful, actually. And that's where the kneeling sort of began. And I stood next to him that night on the field when the anthem played, and some people booed, most people didn't. And there was military appreciation night. There was a flyover and Navy SEALs jumping in the stadium and an African-American sailor singing the anthem. And it was kind of crazy, and it's still crazy 4 years later.
Yeah, and I really, couple things on that. 4 years later, what do you think has changed in the 4 years' time that it seems like people are now more receptive to that stance and that action than they were when it initially happened?
Well, in some of these instances, some of these, like the excessive force instances, we'll just talk about that with police and things that, especially when somebody ends up dead, somebody that shouldn't be dead, right? There's often, it's hard to see what's going on in whatever video, right? Or it's hard when you hear the report, read the report, there's muddy, unclear stuff. Not that it's ever okay to take somebody's life that's not armed. That's not okay, period. But there's always but this guy, even with what happened in Atlanta this week, and that's probably a very touchy subject right now, but I think it was that officer should not have shot that guy in the back, running away. Absolutely. Getting fired was the right move. But, he did resist arrest. He did fight back. He was drunk. There's that kind of stuff, right? And I understand, George Floyd he had a criminal background. Yes, toxicology shows that, he may have been under the influence, blah, blah, blah. But if you watch that video, if you're any kind of human being, that's one of the most inhumane things I've ever seen. And I think a lot of people agree with that. And there's no getting around that. So when America saw that and was just like, wow, I wonder how many times something like this has happened that we never seen or was never on video. And then what about all the times before we all had cell phones and all this stuff? So people really, when they saw that, it became so much more personal. I think at that point they were like, maybe taking a knee isn't the worst thing in the world. You know what I mean? Maybe that kind of taking a knee that's different. That's a violent knee there. That's something that does divide our country when you see the knee taken on George Floyd's neck versus what Colin was doing. And I think it created a bit of empathy, not from everybody, but from many more people that were either vehemently against him, or just were making it about something else. Like it's about, he's protesting America, or he's protesting the national anthem, not during the national anthem. When people saw this and could relate to the why more, I think it opened some eyes and shut some mouths. And that's why things have progressed and moved forward quite a bit in the last 3 weeks versus the last 4 years.
Well, Nate Boyer is with us. I want to ask you this because obviously Army Green Beret, military background, couple tours, and thank you for your service, number one, above all of this. We always hear, you'll hear some people say, I support the military and they're against this. And then you're a military guy and you would say, well, I think it's respectful even though I don't agree with it. Have you got military people who disagree with you and have voiced that? How has the military received your support of Colin Kaepernick? We
are as diverse as any microcosm in America. And with that comes an insane amount of diverse opinions, endless. And so there's plenty of guys and girls out there that absolutely disagree with me, even having a conversation with them or suggesting kneeling over sitting or whatever. Plenty of them. And they have every right to feel that way. And I don't disagree with why sometimes their emotions. I understand where that's coming from. Right. And so that, and there's plenty of people, conversely, that not only agree that, or that think I approached it in a pretty reasonable way and I'm trying to do the right thing. There's a great amount of people too that think he did the right thing in kneeling, right? That served in the military. And it's a mix. It's across the board. And to put us to use us or to say that we all feel a certain way, everybody in the military feels a certain way about something is just stupid. I mean, that's come on. Just because we all wear the same uniform, you think you're going to put us in a box and label us as something and assume that we just fall in line. We don't have opinions and feelings and emotions and whatever. That's dumb. And so that's been the biggest thing. It's this co-opting of whatever that message is. Oh, look, Nate Boyer says it's not disrespectful, so all of that think it's not disrespectful. That's BS. Just as, so another veteran says that is disrespectful, that means all veterans think it's disrespectful. It's just like, it's pretty insane that we even are having that conversation, but it's a very real thing because people do that. People feel that way, and they want to take one man's opinion and turn it, and make it everybody's opinion.
Right. Nate, I just wish we could I wish we could think for ourselves and not be so concerned about what the guy next to you's thought process is. You might not agree, but I don't understand why people get so angry that if you don't agree with me, then it's just crazy that it's gotten down to this. But I know you got to run. I do appreciate the quick couple minutes, but I do want to ask you real quick about your charity MVP, merging vets and players that you started with Jay Glazer before we let you run.
Yeah, of course. And real quick, I think a lot of that anger comes from inside. People upset with themselves, it's projecting. I mean, that's where a lot of that comes from. Social media not helping. All right, moving on.
At Nate Boyer 37, by the way.
Yeah, at Nate Boyer 37. Thank you. Merging vets and players. So we bring combat vets together with former professional athletes, and we help them find service and purpose and identity once the uniform comes off. Typically, the typical person in the military, your career ends in your 20s and 30s. Same with athletes. If you're lucky, you're in your 40s, like very lucky. And we would never compare what we do on the battlefield to the ball field. But the transition out of that uniform, out of that life, and the sense of belonging and feeling like you'll ever do anything as important as you did before is tough. It's tough to find that team again and find that passion and mission again. And so every week we train together in the gym, and then we hang out afterwards and we talk through this stuff. And we encourage and empower each other and help them find that next mission, find their next, whatever that next goal, that next ridgeline. We're very much tuned in that way, athletes and veterans, to all right, great, I achieved this. What's next? And now that we're not wearing that uniform anymore, it doesn't mean we can't still live that way. And that's where a lot of the combating of those struggles comes, and just finding that pursuit of something again and doing it as a team, and having that community in the locker room and support of your brotherhood. So that's what MVP is all about. And if you go to vetsandplayers.org, you can sign up and join us. If you're a combat vet or a former professional athlete, you can also support us, whether that's donation or, finding a way to bring MVP to your city.
Real quick before you roll, do you still keep in touch with Colin? When was the last time you talked to him?
I haven't talked to Colin in a couple of years, and it's all good. I mean, we stayed in touch quite a bit through the season after he took a knee. And I would love to have another conversation with him, and whatever. But he's got so much going on. He's got so many people, I'm sure, in his ear. And, it's all good, man. It's we have different paths. We're working on different projects as well. So, but no, I haven't talked to him recently. But it's been interesting to see all this stuff kick back up over the last couple of weeks. And I'm hopeful that we are going to become more united through this and be better. And we are going to have criminal justice, police reform, and then we can focus on so many other things that need to be reformed in our country as well, because we are far from perfect, man. We've come a long way, but we got a long way to go.
He's Nate Boyer, everybody. United States Army Green Beret, former NFL player, Seahawks, 49ers, and, of course, kind enough to join us here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Nate, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
it. All right, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Powerful stuff, great stuff from him, and I'm glad we were able to catch up with him today.